Happy opening day. Let's have some fun. Bold predictions up next on Fantasy Baseball Today Express. Welcome into FBT Express. We did it. We are here. Opening day, March 27th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Chris Towers. Let's rattle off some bold predictions here, Chris. We'll go back and forth. You are up first.
All right, let's start with Mike Trout. Is a top 10 outfielder in fantasy. And look, I know that every single year of his career, except for this one, he's been drafted as a top 10 outfielder. So it may not seem that bold, but I also know that a bunch of you are saying, oh, there's no way Mike Trout's a top 10 outfielder. He can't stay healthy. And I will just point out that there was another Hall of Fame outfielder whose career was derailed by injuries in his 30s, and that was Ken Griffey Jr. You remember he couldn't stay healthy until his age 35 season when he played 128 games. They followed that up 2 years ago with 144, and then 143 the following year. I'm just saying it can happen. And Mike Trout is playing right field. Hopefully that takes a little wear and tear off his legs. His pace over the last 2 seasons, 41 homers, 12 steals. I think he's still absolutely an impact player when he's healthy. And I think we get at least one more big Mike Trout season.
All right, bold prediction number 1 for me, Robbie Ray.
I got my tight pants on.
Robbie Ray is the most valuable left-handed pitcher in the National League. In other words, he outperforms Chris Sale. There are some other really good left-handed pitchers in the National League. Blake Snell, Shota Imanaga, Justin Steele. This one's pretty bold. There's a lot that has to happen, but I think Robbie Ray can have a really big season this year. He manages to stay healthy. He just strikes everybody out. He's got a deceptive fastball, nasty slider, and a newfound changeup that he learned from Tarek Skubal, who throws the best left-handed changeup in all of baseball. So all those things combined, I think Robbie Ray has a big season, the best left-handed pitcher in the National League. I could also see Chris Sale taking a little bit of a step back. He's dealt with a lot of injuries throughout the course of his career as well. Chris, back over to you. Bold prediction number 2.
And I just want to say, if you've been listening to the podcast the last few weeks, you know we've gotten very high on Robbie Ray. Nick Pollock was on the show a couple weeks ago. He said he might be his dark horse for the NL Cy Young. So I'm with you on that one. I love Robbie Ray. Big fan. Glad I have him on multiple teams. I know, Frank, that you can't say the same thing. So sorry to have to point that out. My next bold prediction, Jackson Jobe outperforms Roki Sasaki in 2025. Roki Sasaki, of course, going about 100 picks ahead at least in drafts over the past week before opening day. And I agree he's probably more talented than Jackson Jobe, but both have dealt with injuries. Both have had innings limitations in their careers so far. Jackson Jobe's have not been arm injuries, and he has not had the kind of velocity decline in recent years that Roki Sasaki has had. Roki Sasaki has less than ideal fastball shape. His splitter's really good, but I think the command is going to be inconsistent, and I think there's just going to be a lot of limitations on his workload. Jackson Jobe, okay, maybe he's only 90% as talented, but he's got a deep arsenal full of great stuff. And I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt that the lack of strikeouts this spring was more about him working through stuff, trying to figure out the process, trying to figure out how to attack hitters. Once the games actually count, I have faith in the talent, and I have faith in the Tigers figuring out how to get the most out of him. They've done a very good job with pitchers in the last few years.
I thought about making one of my bold predictions. Roki Sasaki makes more starts in the minors than he does in the majors.
That would be super bold.
Yeah, but you know, look, there are still some questions here. We have to remind ourselves he's 23 years old. He's a prospect. He's still learning. He's developing on the job here in the majors this upcoming season. With that all being said, if Roki Sasaki has a big season, egg on our faces.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We have doubted him quite a bit entering 2025. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be back right after this.
One of golf's elite courses, Quail Hollow, hosts the game's top players at the PGA Championship this May on CBS.
Welcome back in FBT Express, giving out some bold predictions for this upcoming season. And my next one, Josh Lowe outperforms Jarren Duran. So last season, many dubbed Duran as this year's Josh Lowe. Now, this year, Josh Lowe will be this year's Jarren Duran. So
I just hope Josh Lowe is not, or Jarren Duran's not this year's Josh Lowe. That would be bad for me. I have a lot of Jarren Duran.
Yeah. So I do think that Josh Lowe playing in Steinbrenner Field, short porch in left field in right field, as a left-handed batter. I think the power bounces back. I think last year dealing with the oblique injury, I'm just not sure that he was ever healthy. I think Josh Lowe gets back to the player he was 2 years ago, 20 homers, 30 plus steals, power bounces back. He runs a lot. Big season coming for Josh Lowe and other left-handed batters in Tampa Bay Rays lineup. And Jarren Duran, I think he'll still be productive. I could also see him taking a little bit of a step back. Maybe it's more like a 15-25 season this year. Sorry, Chris. I hope it doesn't happen, but I could just see it as a possibility for Jarren Duran. Back over to you for your final bold prediction.
Both the Marlins and White Sox have a top 50 player in fantasy in 2025. Yes, even the Marlins and White Sox will have good fantasy options. The Marlins have a couple of options. Sandy Alcantara, I think, being the most likely one. Also, Xavier Edwards. With Alcantara, it mostly just comes down to, can he throw 160 innings at a really high level? It's going to be tough to get wins, but if he's pitching deep into games, if he gets traded later on this season, that might not hurt. I think we'll see a rebound in the strikeout rate after it was down in 2023. So Sandy Alcantara has a really good chance. If not, Xavier Edwards, if he hits 280, 290 with 50 steals, I think there's top 50 upside there. The White Sox, it kind of depends on if you're going to let me pick a guy who's likely to get traded, because the problem is if Luis Robert is playing like a top 50 caliber fantasy player, probably means he's not on the White Sox by like July or August at the latest.
Well, same thing for Sandy Alcantara, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. So the problem is if we can't count Luis Robert, then I have no idea who it is. Although I will point out the White Sox actually have some really interesting pitching. I don't think they have anybody that I would even bold predict will be a top 50 player, but Sean Burke's got some talent. Shane Smith has some talent. Noah Schultz and Hagen Smith, actually one of the better pitching prospect duos in the minors. So there is some talent coming up on the White Sox, but that's one of my bold predictions. The Marlins and White Sox both have a top 50 player.
All right, my third and final bold prediction, and this is a player we have talked a lot about this offseason. Isaac Paredes leads all third basemen in home runs. And look, obviously a lot of things have to happen here. Isaac Paredes getting back on track after a down season where his swing was just not suited for playing in Wrigley Field, where he spent, a little bit more than like a third of the season there in Wrigley. Now the pull heavy swing in Houston, it's just a match made in heaven for his swing, pull heavy approach. And just 2 years ago, Isaac Paredes hit 31 home runs. So I think he can get close to that. Obviously, for this to happen, he needs to have a career year, something like 35 home runs. And we also probably need Jose Ramirez and Austin Riley to have a little bit of down power seasons as well. So this is almost a parlay of things that I need to happen, but it's bold. We gotta get bold and say some crazy things here on opening day. But we are going to wrap there. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to our full-length podcast, Fantasy Baseball Today, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today Express, and we will be back again tomorrow to talk about real baseball games.
We did it.
Bye.